On the podcast earlier on, I asked the guys a question that I think was a very interesting one, and I'd love to ask you guys the same question. I asked the two gents on the pod earlier on, have you any seller's remorse on a particular sale that Liverpool made this summer? So was there a player that you would have preferred that Liverpool didn't sell? Whether it be because you don't think we got enough of a transfer fee or because maybe you wish they still stayed. So I'll give you my example. For me, I thought we could have gotten more money for Queevy and Kelleher. I thought, yes, he's only got a year to go on his deal. I understood that. But I think the 12 and a half, 13 million quid we got was just too low for how good a goalkeeper he was. So for me, that's the one that I would have said, not seller's remorse, but I think we could have gotten more money from it. I guess the other big talking point would be Luis Diaz. Do you think it was the right decision to sell him? I mean, he's hit the ground running at Bayern. He was a big part of our success last year. But we also know that Liverpool wouldn't seemingly give him a bumper new deal, and that was lingering as well. So I understood that one, but they're the two for me. Mayor Singh Garcha said Kelleher, Diaz, and Doak. See, Doak I think was genius. Like Ben Doak cost us 600 grand. Made very few senior appearances for us, and we got 25 million quid for. I think that was genius, because that's a lot of profit there for a player that didn't really play much first team football for us. But there is a player in there as well, so I do get where you're coming from. Elliott, Kelleher, and Diaz for Suleiman. See, the Elliott one I'm okay with, because we have the buyback clause there. So whatever happens with Harvey Elliott, we have that buyback clause and the sell-on clause. So I think we've covered ourselves with that one. So yeah, I'm okay with that one because of the buyback. I would have sold Mamardashvili and kept Kelleher. I genuinely think he's top 4 keepers in the world, said Shit Crew 1124. Terry Jake said Ben Doak would be seller's regret for him. Diaz or Elliott for Andy Partridge. Sharkovic said agree with you, Craig. Lucho for Didier Van Dessel. I get that completely. I was okay with Diaz because I thought the fee we got was a substantial fee. But I was also okay with keeping him because he's a very, very good player that always gives 100%, chips in with his good amount of goals as well. But knowing that Rio Ngamoa was there as well coming through, and that the club are going to be giving Cody Gakpo a new deal, whilst I wasn't happy with selling Diaz, I certainly understood it. So another question, flip it around again, that I put to you guys is, tell me if there's a player that you think Liverpool overpaid a bit for and why this summer with the business that we did. So again, I'll give you my answer to kick us off. I think we overpaid for Isak, but it was a seller's market and he was the guy that we wanted. I said many, many times throughout the summer, I like Isak, happy we brought him in, but I viewed him as a 90 to 100 million pound footballer. I think in the market that we're in and the price of strikers we're going for and the situation with his length of contract at Newcastle, yeah, it was always going to be an expensive one. But I definitely feel we overpaid somewhat for Isak. Now, if he scores a bag full of goals for the next few years, who cares? We won't talk about this again. But that's the one for me that I felt there was a little bit there that maybe we could have saved a few quid on. But either way, it's still a great player to come in, so I'm more than happy that he came in. But again, we're nitpicking here, and I'm certainly not trying to complain about our summer transfer business because I'm over the moon with it. It was brilliant. And fair play to the owners, to Hughes, to Edwards, and everybody. But that was the one for me. Right, agree that Kelleher was not a good deal. Also, did no one advise Kelleher where to go? Weird as everybody knew Frank was leaving and the club is only there because of Thomas Frank. Feels a weird one for him to go to Brentford, but I guess looking at it another way, he's now got an Irish manager there in Keith Andrews. He's got the Irish centre-back ahead of him. So from that regard, it's good for the Irish team as well. And he's, getting that repetition of playing with Nathan Collins ahead of him. SMD said, to be honest, we've spent so well, I wouldn't say anybody was overpaid. LFC Drew said Ekatike. Andy Partridge said, yes, we overpaid for Isak, but nothing like Newcastle and their overspend on Voltmade. Oh, mate, I'm 100% with you on that one. That was that was one that I agree with you on. They absolutely overpaid. Look at their initial offer for Visa. It was 25 million quid, and they spent 55 million in the end. And Voltmada, was it 90 million euro, something like that? Which, Bayern were buyers at about 45, 50 million euro when they were trying to buy him. So I agree with you on that one, Andy, 100%. Kai Hunter said, I know that Arna didn't really seem to trust him. I quite like Kwanzaa. I think we got good money for Kwanzaa, especially with him not going to another English club. To have gotten the money we did for him, I was happy with that. If it means we brought in Giovanni Leone as well, I think he will be a better centre-back over time. But I guess we should have pointed out as well that we do have the buyback option in Kwanzaa's deal. Summerpool said Kelleher should be 40 to 50. Well, the reason he wasn't on, I still do think we sold him cheaply, was because he only had 1 year left on his Liverpool deal. So we do have to keep that in mind as well. He said Elliott the same. Yeah, we got 35 and I think a loan fee, which will bring it closer to 40, I believe. And we have the buyback in there. So I think that was what we always roughly expected for Elliott. Diaz probably another 10 mil. I think the price we got there was fair, but I wouldn't have said no to another 10 mil either. You said Nunes was about right. Same with Kwanzaa. Can you see us selling Mo in the summer? I don't know. Is the honest answer, mate. I don't think Mo will want to move on a sale. I think when he signed that 2-year deal, he signed it with the full intention of seeing out the 2 years, breaking more records and seeing what happens at the end of it. So I don't expect that he'd be open to a sale after a year, but like I said, I don't know either way. Tell me, and don't go for the lazy big options. Give me what you think is a good bit of business by a club that isn't Liverpool in this summer's transfer window. So when I asked the guys this question on the podcast, one of the answers was Jack Grealish to Everton. And I have to say, I think Steve was right with that. It was a good shout. I know it's only a loan, but I do think he'll have a big impact on Everton's season. So other shouts that we had for good bits of business by other clubs were Eze and Arsenal as an example. People thought, in our chat, that was a good one. Steve also thought Cherky and Manchester City for the price they paid was a good bit of business. So let us know what ones that you think. Onana away from Man United, said Jacko. That's a sad one, It's a sad one if he does. We like to see him stay and continue his great work there. And thank you, Jacko, for the super chat, my man. And Womo, Aaron said at United, I think he's a good signing, but I wouldn't put him up there as one of the best bits of business of the window. But he's a good signing for United, definitely. Kudos to Spurs, Adam Heen said, which is a good shout. Grealish for sure, Diaz, but they had to pay Kelleher and Pedro to Brentford. Yeah, Connor said João Pedro to Chelsea was a signing that he thought was good business this summer. Because I've always said I think João Pedro was underrated, and when we discussed him as a potential option for Liverpool at some points, people were almost scoffing at it, but I always thought there was a player in there. LFC Spectre said João Pedro. Adam Christmas said Truffer at Bournemouth. That's a good shout, Adam. He looked very good in the opening few games as a replacement for Kirkes. That's a good shout. Sean Mack said Sunderland getting Granit Xhaka. Yeah, there's another decent shout, mate. Certainly brought in a lot of Premier League experience and leadership into that Sunderland team. David said Tyler Dibbling to Everton. That's a weird one. But if you look at the price of it, David, they were quoting 100 million last year for Tyler Dibbling, and they got him for what? Just under 40, I think. So good price, but will Tyler Dibbling regret going to Everton in the long term? I don't know, but it's a good signing for Everton, definitely.